Our community, as I've said, has great sports history. Our history is still yet to be told. It's unfolding before our eyes, and that's the great thing about our area sports Hall of Fame is if we didn't encompass it today, we're going to encompass it in the future.
Special need to know info in St. Joe Mo Sports here. Chris Roush with Brett Esely. Brett, it is Thursday, which means it's the day before the Division II Women's Basketball National Championship at Civic Arena. Very busy time for you getting ready for all that tomorrow night, but what a week it's been so far, too.
It's been awesome. Really started on Saturday with our teams coming in town and being welcomed by area middle schools at the hotel. Saw some awesome pictures of how the hotels were decorated, and those weren't things that I think teams were expecting. And so when you come to a community, most of which I would gather that those travel parties have either never been to before, or if they've been here, it hasn't been very much. I'm sure that was a really good reminder of, wow, we had a great season and we're at the national championship. And, we've had some great external events. We had over 100 kids at East Hills last Saturday for our Hoop City tip-off. And then team practices on Sunday, had a great banquet at St. Joe Country Club on Sunday night. And those were the days that our teams took middle school visits to the schools on Sunday. And if you've been in the arena at all this week, you've seen those middle schools really embrace the teams, and the teams notice that. They do. It's a big deal to them. And we talk so much about win-win. That's why it's called community engagement. It does engage youth, and our student athletes are really good role models for them, and you've seen that on display this week as well. Then, golly, I mean, let's talk about the obvious and why these teams are here.
Mhm.
We've seen some pretty darn good games at Civic Arena. If you were in the arena last night, you saw Minnesota State and Cal State San Marcos. That was two games in one. I call it the first 39 minutes, which were pretty darn good, and then the storylines in the last minute of that game were goodness, all over the place. You had situations where both teams probably, had they not won, looked back and said, "Man, if we just switched a couple of things, we should have come out on top." And as we know, only one team can. And Minnesota State, if you're into X's and O's of the game of basketball, that the play that ultimately won them the game was a work of art. It's out there on a lot of social platforms. You guys probably have it on your platforms as well. Go check that out. What a great play drawn up by Coach TC. And then in our first game last night, Texas Women's and Ferris State, that was a very good game for a quarter. And then unfortunately Ferris State went through a cold spell, and Texas Women's pulled away. And what a great national championship game. You've got to, we get caught up in looking at the seeds, but, throw the seeds out. If you're here, you deserve to be here, and you've got a chance to win it. And it's going to be exciting. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention we had the great Jackie Stiles in on Tuesday for a youth clinic. That was a free event. We had 150 spots. That filled up in about 24 hours once again. And, I think anytime you can bring it's such a Caitlin Clark world that we live in right now on the women's basketball side, and rightfully so. But I think what you have to remember, before there was Caitlin Clark, there was Jackie Stiles. She was a trailblazer, and Jackie, number one, is just a good person, a good human, a good role model. I think the thing to note was that she told the kids right off the bat, just remember, I'm your coach forever. Reach out to me if you need something. And I think that just sets the tone right away. But now as we're on national championship game eve, if you haven't been in the arena this week, you need to come down tomorrow night at 7 o'clock and be a part of a national championship in St. Joseph. Again, this is the last guaranteed time we have to host this championship. We've bid for future years, but there's no guarantees there. The environment in the arena has been electric, and I expect nothing less for the national championship tomorrow night.
I think that's what has impressed me, too, is that despite these teams having no real local connection. I mean, Georgia, the team out of Georgia had a few local ties, Moberly, stuff like that. It was kind of a cool part of this too. But the amount of fans that were still in attendance for teams that aren't any ties here locally. I mean, that goes to a lot to the kids and the elementary schools and everything that you guys are working with. But it's been pretty good crowds considering there isn't that local connection.
Well, I think a number of factors there. Let's put our tourism hat on first. You can get here. We say that all the time. Just go look at the map and where these teams are coming from. We are about as centrally located as you're going to get, and that matters at all level of athletics, let alone this level of athletics. And given we've got a brand new international airport 35 miles away, we're drivable. Look no further than the two teams playing tomorrow night. Mankato, Minnesota, hop on I-35 and come down here 367 miles. Denton, Texas, hop on 35 north and come up here. It's a little farther trip, but it's a trip you can make, especially with an off day. And I've heard some numbers from the schools. I think they've got, I know Texas Women's, I literally just heard before we came on, they've got 2 full fan buses of people coming up here, which I think that's really exciting. And I'm sure Minnesota State will as well. And number 2, I've always said this is a great basketball town. We've got a lot of good history here, but it is a really good women's basketball town. That has always been a great tradition here, whether we're talking Missouri Western athletics, whether we're talking girls high school basketball, a very good tradition there. And then just number 3, I go back to our community engagement in our schools and just people that have taken interest in what's going on here in St. Joseph. And I think realizing that this is an NCAA national championship right here in our own backyard. Don't take it for granted. We've, when we haven't done that, we try to make a really good effort to make sure people know exactly what's going on here. It's March, it's basketball. If you only follow it once a year, you're following it now. But I think it's important to note that tomorrow night's game, the confetti is going to fly when it's over. The nets are going to cut down when it's over. Somebody's going to walk out of here with a really nice piece of hardware that says NCAA national champion. And I just think that's really cool when you see that going on right here in downtown St. Joseph.
How have you seen maybe the community for maybe compared to last year? Because obviously it was the first time in 13 years that the women's national champion, Elite 8 was here because the national championship wasn't here last year. How have you seen maybe the interest grow from year 1 to year 2? Because that's a normal thing, right? Like first year, it's getting everybody acclimated. Year 2, let's go.
Well, that's the unique thing about the championship model within the NCAA. Other than a couple of instances, is you don't have permanent sites. The College World Series in Omaha is a little bit hybrid to that. Men's basketball has had a little bit of a home in Evansville, and Division II football has had a home in McKinney, Texas. But other than that, the championships rotate, and so especially at this level, I think it's important if you can have a consistent host. Well, that's how tradition builds. That's how your calendar builds. And I think anybody that was here last year, and I said this last year, if we were having this conversation a year ago, the tournament was done here, and championship night is really closure for your operations folks, your local committee, your team host, your fans, just as much as it is the teams. And I think just knowing now that we'll get to see that confetti fly and the nets cut down right here in St. Joseph is really cool. First of all, there's a lot of pride in that. But the other piece to that is we had people that engaged last year that said, golly, just let me know when that is next year. I want to be there. And I think we've seen that. And you know how this is. People talk. We can market the heck out of things, but a lot of times the best marketing still is word of mouth. And I've used this example a lot in the last 12 hours. If you were in this building last night, you're going to be here Friday night. There's no question about it. If you saw how that game ended, and it wasn't just the ending. I mean, it was the entire fourth quarter of that game and really all 40 minutes. It was good basketball, high-level basketball, 2 really good teams, and you're going to see a carbon copy of that here in Civic Arena tomorrow night.
I'll say this too for people maybe that aren't able to, for whatever reason, get out there. Seeing Civic Arena on national TV with all the updates and renovations, it looks state of the art almost in the sense of how old it is considering, but the renovations that have been done, the seating, the lighting, the floor, there's been a lot of makeover here in the last couple of years to make it look national championship worthy in that aspect.
It cleans up pretty well, doesn't it?
Yep.
And I'm kind of sensitive to some things, having been really fortunate to have been around championship events for a number of years. I've had some wonderful experiences. There's just a lot of things aesthetically that I notice, and some of them probably ultimately aren't all that important to the championship per se, but I do think the environment matters. That's something we control. And I think when you look at pictures and you see the venue dress up on television, it's natural. It's not awkward. It fits. It looks good. The signage is in the right place. The lighting's in the right place. And, watch the Division I games this weekend. All of those venues look the same. They are all dressed up the same. The signage is strategically placed to where you notice it, and it looks natural. And I think we've been really sensitive about that in Civic Arena. And again, is that determine who wins? No. But does that bode well for what people see and their first appearance of St. Joseph and what this venue's like? Absolutely. That's important. And it's important for anybody that's walked in here. I got a lot of texts from people watching all over the country last night saying, man, it looks good. I got a text from my friend Bryce Garnett, PGA Tour winner, 2 weeks ago, and he said, golly, it looks good. I'm watching. Congratulations. And that stuff matters. And it tells you that, and not about me. I mean, it goes to show you that our community leaders, our voters had a piece in this, that they had to vote a parks tax in that helped make this happen. And it's really good to know that we've got that commitment and people understand the importance of finally being able to aesthetically renovate a venue. And I'm excited there's more coming here. We've talked a lot about paint. That process will start here, interior and exterior here over the course of the summer. The bathrooms will get a much needed renovation. And it's all what I say about events. It's not just about this particular event. It's about what's next as it relates to St. Joseph. And that's not just sports. That's anything we look at that can live here in Civic Arena, whether the Sports Commission has anything to do with it or not. I think it's really important and just happy to see what's next. And hopefully that's what's next involves future NCAA events here in the arena down the line.
Yeah, and I think you've hit that pretty well there, but it kind of, I mean, you've been living by this motto too, why not us? I mean, since you've taken the Sports Commission stuff, not just sports, but do these type of events coming here kind of prove that St. Joe can do this? Like, it's not St. Joe. It's St. Joe can be a national championship city when we put these events on.
Well, I 100% agree. We said this after our marathon last September. St. Joe does big events pretty well. St. Joe likes big events. We don't have a lot of them, but we're starting to have more. And I think what that shows you is people in this community care. They like to be a part of things. They understand that it literally takes a village to pull these things off. And, it's just something, again, we're a very prideful community. Sometimes maybe a little bit too prideful, let's be honest, but we're a very prideful community and that's a positive and it shows. Our visitors see that. And again, I go back to two things and I sound like a broken record. Location, it matters. And our hospitality matters too. And we do hospitality very, very well here. People see that. It matters. And I've always said too, and I told this to our travel parties before they even came to St. Joe. I said, we're excited to host you and our community knows you are coming. And that matters. It matters not only to NCAA national championship events. We're going to have an opportunity to host some state championship events here in the coming months. And I think anytime we can do those events, great, not good, great. It just bodes well for not only the present, but it bodes well for the future. And we always need to keep an eye on that.
If you haven't already got your tickets for the week or whatever, you got the $40 price, $15 tomorrow night for adults, but what is it? Youth, senior, student ticket, just $5.
So special price for tomorrow night. So our national championship game price, it's $15 for adults, $5 for youth, students, senior citizens, $5 to come see a national championship game. And you can get your tickets online. They're available right now. Easiest way to get those is stjomosports.com. That's stjomosports.com. You can buy those and walk up at the Civic Arena box office. So for the 7 p.m. tip tomorrow night, doors in the ticket office will open at 6 p.m. And I think you will not be disappointed if you come to the arena tomorrow night. And we kind of had a sense that if you were going to come one night, it was probably going to be Friday night, the national championship game. And I look forward to a great environment. Yeah, it's going to be great. And don't miss your chance to be part of a national championship in St. Joseph.
Our community, as I've said, has great sports history. Our history is still yet to be told. It's unfolding before our eyes, and that's the great thing about our area sports Hall of Fame is if we didn't encompass it today, we're going to encompass it in the future.